the Gentlementor.
All right, let's start.
Are we going to do a podcast, or are we just going to talk about trains?
This is what we do anyway. We just BS.
Oh yeah.
Train idea, but okay.
This is what we do.
Sorry, I forgot. That is our shtick.
Okay, so if any of this information made it through the first filter, we know that Sean is originally from New Jersey. So tell us more about.
Yes, tell us about growing up in New Jersey, the Garden State.
Yes, it is.
And also, here you go, New Jersey fun facts. Top 2 exports, New Jersey, blueberries and chemicals.
Correct.
What kind of
You're
chemicals?
Right. Yep. And another fun
industrial.
Fact, we used to be the largest glass manufacturers in the world.
Glass?
Because everything down south is silicon sand. What you need to make glass, but all that's gone to China now. So that whole industry basically died there. So our hometown there was 6 glass plants in town. That was the major industry. If you didn't work in a glass plant, it was like, what do you do then? But all that went away late 80s, early 90s. And now the major employer there is prisons. Yeah, that's what we got in southern New Jersey. Yeah.
Well, that's neat. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have we're really close to the ocean, so
I would kind of say that New Jersey's like on the ocean, isn't it?
Basically, yeah, a lot of it, most of it.
So where'd you grow up in New Jersey?
South. What's that? I'm sorry.
Where'd you grow up in New Jersey?
There's a little town called Millville.
Okay, which is where roughly?
So if you picture Philadelphia and Atlantic City, we're just below and in the middle of it.
Okay.
So it took about 40 minutes to get to Atlantic City and about 30 minutes to get to Ocean City. So and then 45 minutes to Philly, 2 hours to New York City.
Is this like Pine Barrens?
Just south of it.
South of it.
Yes. Okay. We're talking Jimmy Leeds, the Jersey Devil. That's the Jersey Devil's real name is Jimmy Leeds. If you believe in this sort of thing.
I didn't know he had one.
Yes. Oh,
there's
he has
a fun fact.
There's a whole story behind it, man. So he was a baby that was unwanted and cursed when he was born, and then he turned into the Jersey Devil, and he still haunts the whole area.
Dun, dun, dun. That's one of those one kind of podcasts. We just did one of those.
I ain't never seen him. But
the scary story podcast that everybody's listening to.
I've never met
right
Jimmy
there.
Personally, but I've never met Bigfoot either. So.
Is that why the New Jersey hockey team is the Devils?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir, it is. That's right. It all comes together now, right?
It all makes sense now. It's so clear to me now.
The connections.
I'm enlightened.
Yeah. So I was there until I was 23. Then my ex-wife and I moved to South Carolina. Stayed there for a few years. Then we went to Indiana. Stayed there for a few years, and then here I am in Springfield. So
what are you doing all this time? I know that ostensibly the reason you're here is because you have a history of law enforcement work. Are you all the way through college?
Little bit. So
anything?
No, went to college actually for mechanical engineering.
Ooh,
did that for about
why?
A year. I know.
Do you hate yourself?
Because I had a family member that was interested in that, and I was like, boy, that looks fun.
Man.
So I did that, and I was like, this is the worst. I imagined I was being in this like manufacturing place and measuring things and pointing things and doing all this stuff. And I sat in a cubicle and drew lines on the computer all day. That's what I did. And I'm like, this sucks.
Sounds like my first year in ministry.
Right. So I was dating a girl that her dad was a sergeant at the police department in town. And he knew I wasn't happy. And he said, you should come he said, come do a ride along with me. I was like, listen, man, like you guys are real aggressive and you could get hurt doing that. I'm not doing that. And he's pretty much like, don't be I don't know what our rating is here, but don't be a B. Come on, let's go. So I was like, yes, sir.
We have a rating?
You can use all the letters. Okay. All the letters are legal here.
Okay, good. So, he told me not to be a little bitch and come with him. So I was like, okay, yes, sir. And I was like, this is great. You get to drive around fast. They give you a gun. You chase bad guys. This is kind of cool. And there I was. So I started in New Jersey. I was a police officer there in my hometown for several years. When we moved to South Carolina, I was a deputy there for about 3 years. Indiana, I worked for the federal government for a while. and then came here to Springfield and worked for Springfield PD for about 11 years. So all in all, about 17 years altogether. So,
Woo!
yeah. Seen a thing like that commercial. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. Yep.
Seen a thing or two.
So, not much surprises me anymore. I see stuff, I'm like, yep. I've seen that before. So don't get excited about much.
I've heard lots of stories. He tells quite a few stories, and sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And I've forgotten a lot of them. But somebody will say something and be like,
and it's probably good that you have.
That
as well.
reminds, some of them need to be blocked out. There was lots of hours of counseling for that. So, sorry.
No.
So yeah, gosh, you name it. I mean, I was on a SWAT team for a while. I did investigations. I did community policing. Obviously, patrol. What else? Training officer. I did a lot of stuff in those 17 years. So I got to do everything I wanted to do. So, except fast rope out of a helicopter. I always wanted to do that and never got to do it. So, other than that, just about every other box was checked off.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And you enjoyed that, presumably, for 17 years of it?
It did. I did. I enjoyed it a lot. But, it's not good for your soul. There you see people at their worst every day, and you have to break horrible news to people, which just, once you tell somebody that their kids are dead or their, family passed away, it takes a piece of you every day. And I don't know how many times I've seen people pass away at car accidents. I mean, before I left, I had a guy die in my arms at a motorcycle accident, and it just takes a piece of you every time. And people complain that police officers are so insensitive and stuff like that. But I mean, they could literally be helping you. And this is a call I got one time. Someone called because their neighbor's child was riding their tricycle in their driveway, and they called the police. Right before that, I did CPR on an 18-month-old that had probably been shaken by their parents. I don't remember the outcome of that, or the boyfriend. And then from there, I went to this idiot not being able to communicate with his neighbor and wanted their child to be charged with trespassing for riding a tricycle in their driveway. And the kid was like 4 years old. And I'm just like, really, man? Like, no, we're not doing that. So if people wonder why police officers are short or just seem grumpy, I mean, it's just, man, each day is...
That's the thing that you and I talked about, I think, when all this stuff was going down earlier in 2020 about, you don't know when a police officer arrives, you don't know what they've had to face before.
Right.
They got there just moments before they got there like that.
Just moments before, like literally leave that one call and go to the next.
Right.
And you have that drive time of maybe 3, 4, 10 minutes to process what you just did, and then have to deal with this person complaining about the most trivial thing in the world. And you have to be compassionate and seem like you care, but some days you just want to punch them in the throat.
You can't. You can't do that. You can't do that job as a career and be involved on that level. You have to be able to give yourself some distance.
There is, and you just become disconnected. Yeah. And I've told so many, I've told stories at work and stuff like that, but I mean, just being at scenes where people pass away, and you just get to the point you're like, well, it's just another day, car accidents. And I mean, there was a girl that a friend of mine and I had to fight, and she was well known in town. I won't say her name but she was a well-known drug user in town, and she was always a problem. And it was literally the best fight I've ever been in to arrest her one time. And she had to weigh 90 pounds soaking wet. And we went from the front porch, down steps, in a mud puddle. I mean, it was hilarious now looking back. I mean, covered in mud. I was covered in mud. And she went to jail for assault and peace disturbance. I don't remember. And then I don't know, 3-4 weeks later, she's in a car accident in town, in the middle of town, and their car hit a tree, probably doing about 100 miles an hour plus. And she was decapitated in the back seat. And honestly, my first reaction, didn't know who she was, but once I find out who she was, I go, huh, well, I guess you're not showing up for court next week. I mean, that's just, and it sounds horrible, but you deal with it every day.
Not to me. It sounds like you would be the guy to work with.
Well, yes and no, I guess. I don't know. I see a lot of my friends, and they just, I wish you were still around. I'm like, some days me too. But I just saw a friend of mine the other day at Lowe's, and we got talking about all the stuff that we pulled and some of the calls we went to and the fun that we had. I was like, man, looking back, they were great times. We had a blast. But just, after a friend of mine got shot, and then one of the guys that I had trained in the academy got shot and killed about this time last year, it just, man. And I know 4 that have died in the line of duty of people I know or worked with. So, and I used to tell people when I was a training officer, I'm like, you do the job long enough, someone you know will be killed at work.
It's just a matter of time.
Shot. Yeah, it's just a matter of time. It's like, flying airplanes, Mark. Just, it's something that's inherently dangerous that people pass off as normal, but sooner or later, fate will catch up. Yeah. And hopefully it's not you. And hopefully it's not someone that you love, but a lot of times that it is. So there was 3 in South Carolina, 1 here, actually 5, and 1 in New Jersey that I knew. So it just stinks, man. It's never easy. It's horrible. So
now we're moving away from that though, and we're getting social workers to do these calls, right? Is that is that?
That's a great idea, right?
Yeah.
So
now we don't have to call an officer out
or banging down the door to do that job.
Yeah, I've noticed
social workers, and they're like, no, that's why I do my job that I have now. So, I mean, imagine somebody from DFS going and trying to deal with a domestic assault. Or do those victims need some kind of social worker? Absolutely they do. After the bad guy goes to jail, or girl, doesn't matter. Do they need some kind of services that a social worker can provide? Absolutely. Do we want that person to be the first responder there? Maybe not. So, and I've always said this, I don't think that there doesn't need to be some kind of, or need isn't the word, but there isn't room for change, because there's always room for change no matter what you do in business or your life. You can always fix something, but that's just not the best idea in my opinion.
Right.
So,
and so what about our system? You hear someone say that, well, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but it also gets replaced. What about our system that's broke? Or is it even broken that we feel like we need to defund it, and then we've got to fix it and replace it with people who are less qualified and less willing? Sounds like a commitment.
Oh yeah, I'll never understand that. I understand funneling funds to programs that will benefit certain people or certain things. And mental illness is probably the biggest thing that we have to deal with now. So
you think, let's pause on that for a second. Do you think that mental illness really contributes to a lot of that? That goes on.
Absolutely.
That's a big absolute.
And that will encompass addiction as well. So if mental illness falls into that, because it's a disease.
Well, how come Doug's not in jail more often then?
I keep trying; they won't pick me up.
Right.
Sorry.
Here's hey, I'll tell you where to go, buddy. The funny thing is, there is such a shortage in the mental health care field.
Absolutely.
There is such a massive shortage of counselors, because psychiatrists don't do counseling anymore.
Correct.
Psychiatrists write prescriptions.
Right.
Counselors are doing all of the counseling and the therapy and that sort of stuff, and there's such a need. They can't even supply just what the mental health community needs.
Right.
How are they going to branch that out and now make these people first responders? Now, I will say this, your example, and I know it was an example and not to be taken too seriously, but maybe it was. The kid on the tricycle. in the neighbors. To me, this is a place you don't need a counselor. This is I'm gonna have to preamble. Sorry, let me pause here and rewind. There's a funny dynamic, lots of them that have happened in our country over the years. One of the main ones is something I never realized until it had already happened, and somebody pointed it out to me, and they said, "You ever notice that houses don't have front porches anymore?"
Darn right.
And I heard this years ago, and I went, well, what? How could that possibly affect anything? There's no neighbor, there's no community, there's no. And then I thought, remember when I was a kid? You could be screwing up a mile away from your house, and if another adult saw you, they would reprimand you on the spot and send you home, and you would go. Because the community was there. And if you didn't, you were going to get busted worse. That's all gone. And it used to be that community would almost kind of, on minor stuff, kids in the driveway, would police itself.
Yeah.
And nobody needed to be there. But that breakdown of the community, this is the fallout.
Darn right. And a perfect example of that. And when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house. And the front of their house was on a fairly busy road, but they lived on a side street. They lived on a corner. Well, behind my grandparents was Mrs. Gebhardt. Mrs. Gebhardt's 97 years old. She's still there. But her driveway had this awesome hill you could go down. So I'd go over there and ride my bike and go down the hill. And it was just the funnest thing. And then the sidewalk there had a big bow in it, so I could jump my cool BMX bike, go up the hill, turn around, and jump the other way. So, and I knew I wasn't supposed to go up there because that was Mrs. Gebhardt's driveway. But when I did, she called my grandma, and they were friends. And my grandma would tell me, "Were you over there?" "Yes, ma'am." "So, you're not supposed to be there?" "Yes." "Don't do that." "Yes, ma'am." "Okay." So I couldn't go down that street without doing anything because they all knew my grandparents at the corner, and my grandparents knew everyone else. So, but we don't have that. Everyone hangs out their backyard with 6-foot privacy fences anymore. So, and they don't want to send their kids out front because they're afraid from watching the news that they're going to snatched up and end up in a basement somewhere. So we've isolated ourselves from everyone else. And then this is a whole nother issue, but then we isolate ourselves and then we watch social media. And the algorithms just show us everything that we want to see. So everyone else is crazy, but our beliefs are the right way. And just, you got what we have now. It's total divide. No one cares about anyone else. It drives me absolutely insane.
Wow, man, it took a dark turn there.
I'm sorry. That's just,
No. It's usually my thing, but hey, go.
Sorry, but it just.
Well done.
And people wonder why. And I know we started on mental health, but and people wonder why this happens. Well, it's happened over decades now, and now we're dealing with the consequences of it. In the 80s, we're all about the same age. We could go out and play until it was dark, and no one cared. So, and then it seems like when the age of information began, oh, you can't go out there. You're going to die and get habersnatched by some crazy dude, Lester the child molester across town. And so, now you have to play in the backyard. Okay. So like my kid here in my neighborhood, he doesn't have one friend in the neighborhood because they don't play outside. What do the kids do now? They play on their iPads and they play with their friends online, play video games. Which is okay to a point, but they need the interaction together. And I think obviously adults do too. And it just, it's just, that's a whole nother rabbit hole that I think we probably will be for another episode.
I think you've stumbled into a warren.
Oh, man. Anyway, so
this is all we do here is just make our way through rabbit holes.
We'll go off in different directions. I'll try to stay on task with mental health.
No. We don't have any expectations to stay on task to do anything.
I got a little ADHD, so you got to keep me in line.
You're in the right place. You're in the right place. Sometimes that's all we do. Sometimes we just chase our tail. Weeks in a row. We're just like, Doug will be like, we talked about this like 2 weeks ago. Oh, okay.
But as far as the mental health thing, law enforcement has become the first line mental health providers, where before you could call the hospital because little Johnny's being crazy. All right, bring little Johnny in. Yeah. All right, we're going to commit him for a while. You don't have that resource anymore. So now no one wants to offend by calling little Johnny crazy, but little Johnny's batshit crazy. You call the police, and they're like, well, he's not a danger to himself or others.
That's wrong.
So best of luck to you. We'll refer you to, let's say, Burl or some other mental health provider. So they make an appointment with Burl, and they try to give little Johnny medicine, but parents can't afford the medicine because they don't have health insurance. So little Johnny's out on the street doing all the things he normally does. And finally, he'll commit a serious enough crime where he ends up in jail. So, and it's cyclical. It'll happen all over and over and over again. So there's literally people in Springfield that you are not allowed to arrest. Why? Because they're crazy as hell and they cause trouble in the jail. So you're supposed to give them a ticket and send them on their way. Unless you absolutely have to, you're not supposed to arrest them. What do you do?
Wow.
What do you do?
And this, I'm assuming that this is probably the case in lots of communities.
Oh, absolutely.
Cities.
I mean, imagine policing Portland or something like that. I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, the Midwest is pretty pro law enforcement here.
Right,
we're lucky. The police department's well funded. The fire department's well funded. As much as we want to talk smack about the city, it's now they seem to have their budget in order and stuff like that. But all the appropriate programs have the money they need. But you go places, I mean, like New York pulled $1 billion when all this stuff happened. Pulled $1 billion of the NYPD's budget. NYPD has 40,000 officers. That's more people that were in my hometown in New Jersey. That's more people than Nixon and Ozark put together. 40,000 cops, they pulled $1 billion. LAPD pulled $187 million or something like that from their programs, did away with different units. Milwaukee did the same. Once all that stuff happened, I think they pulled 50 million or 30 million, some ridiculous number. But now, if you read all the articles, all the cities are putting money back in because what has happened? Well, the crime went up. No way.
That's peculiar.
Weird. Never would have guessed that.
Doesn't make any sense.
Would not.
God,
And these are already not well-funded departments, and they're pulling more funds from them.
No, they're not.
That's what surprised me. And everybody thought that this would be okay, and that crime is just going to. I mean, even here in Springfield, you know, I talked about the other day how crime is just things have gone up, and you can't fill a class, a police officer. You can't fill an academy.
No. And from what I understand, I talked to a friend, I guess they've been doing a little better here in Springfield, excuse me. But, you know, they're still, and I don't know how long ago. I know they're down a lot of officers. I don't know about now because they just graduated an academy 3-4 weeks ago or something like that. But I don't know how many they're down. But, I mean, just the city here will not give you authorization to pre-hire. So like we know X number of officers are going to retire. We know X number of officers are going to leave just due to attrition every month. All right. So this academy will take 6 months for these officers to be on the street. Can we hire X amount of officers knowing this many are going to leave? No, you can fill the vacancies you have right now. They will always be chasing the tail.
Yeah.
They'll always be 30 down, 20 down, always. So, and in a city like Springfield, that's 2 squads of cops, 20, 30 officers. I mean, 350, I think, or 360 is the authorized strength now in Springfield, something like that. I mean, I've been gone for several years, but that's what it was when I left. Maybe it's 365 now, but they'll never be able to catch it. And a lot of departments are like that because they don't want to spend the money up front. It costs about $100,000 here in Springfield to train an officer for 6 months and equip them. About $100,000. New York will probably be higher. You know, out west will be higher. All these people that run their own academies. A lot of places will send you to an academy to get your training, but the PD has to pay that academy or that city for your training. But here it's in Springfield, it's all done in-house. So, but if you go work for the sheriff's office, those guys will go to like Drury Law Enforcement Academy or a college and get their training, which you have to pay for yourself, and then you can get a job. So,
interesting.
Yeah. But just the numbers and gosh, I don't even know where we started on this one either. But just the numbers they'll never catch up. They'll always be behind. The departments like out west and out east, they're all underfunded anyway. You never hear of a police department go, man, we have all this extra money. I don't know what
surplus.
To do with Right. Yeah. Weird. Maybe we'll buy more militarized equipment with it.
I want some.
All those places, especially like Milwaukee's had problems for years before this whole incident happened. There's a great video of the chief at the time. I don't know, it was when Floyd was killed, but a reporter asks him why he was short with someone or something like that during this interview. And he says, and he just unloads on these reporters. And he says, he goes, well, I was getting texts from a supervisor that was out on a scene of a kid being shot and killed, or like a 6-year-old or 7-year-old being shot or killed. And he says, but everybody wants to know why I'm short and, why I don't have time for this or that. And I mean, he just unloads on them. And he says that I know our department isn't without sin, but pretty much you have to put your priorities in order. It's a great video. And all the reporters are just like, okay, have a great day. He just throws PC out the window and just says it how it is. And they're just like, okay, thank you. So, and he says at the end, he goes, now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go to the scene of a dead kid and tell their parents their kid is dead. And like just turns around and walks away. It's like, good for him, but
wow.
There's a lot of expectation and from people that have never done the job. I don't know how to solve that. I don't know what the answer is. I used to encourage everybody. What was that?
I was going to say, there's some really good, a couple of really good YouTube, sorry, I'm not plugging YouTube here. YouTube videos where they've taken people who are anti-police and taking them out for like a day of training or a ride-along or something and gives them a different perspective. You're exactly right. People look at police and they think, oh, well, this is just like my job, doing whatever, working at the grocery store or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Most people don't have any sense of the fact, every time an officer goes out, there's this impending peril like you were talking about. If you're not dead and you don't know anybody who's dead, just wait, you will,
Right.
And it's like that's constantly hanging over you. You're in a high stress situation. You're everything's going on and people are yelling and shouting, and you got to be the referee.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's like that's going to max anybody out real quick.
You're the sober guy at the drunk party every day. And it's like herding cats is the best way to. I mean, people
I even like
try to rationalize with irrational people, and it just wears you out. It just wears you out. So
sounds exhausting.
Would it do good if more people went on a ride along? I know we can't.
I see. Okay, so that's what I was about to say. I used to encourage people. I'm like, you don't like the PD, go for a ride along.
Yeah.
Just go on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. Go out there, and you'll have the front row seat to the greatest show on earth. Is what I used to say, because you'll see people not at their best, at their absolute worst. And that's a regular Thursday night, man. I mean, there's nothing new about it. So my father-in-law went with me one night. We literally left the station. We drive to a domestic, and I used to not have good luck when I would have ride-alongs. Like nothing would happen. Like it would just be a blah night. Yeah. And I told my father-in-law that, and I was just like, here we are. Like, nothing's probably going to happen. We leave the station, we get sent to a domestic, and I worked on the south side. I get sent all the way to Center City. I get there, and I hear a woman screaming. I look inside, and her husband has her into the couch and just drilling her in the face. So I bang on the window. I'm like, hey! And he sees me, and he runs to the back. I'm like, well, I'm running to the back. So I jump off the porch, run to the back. He comes off the back patio, and there I was with my taser. And I'm like, stop. And there's a chain link fence dividing us. And I was like, stop, turn around. And he goes to turn around and goes to take a step to run. And I got him with the taser, and he fell 3 steps down onto the concrete. I was like, gosh dang it. And broke his orbital. I mean, just jacked him up. And so I hop over the fence, put him in handcuffs. I'm just like, 15 minutes in, there we are. So I was like, and that's how the rest of the night went. I mean, it was non-stop. There was like 2 pursuits that night. I mean, you name it, it happened. So, but another night you could just sit there.
And so your father-in-law was like, so what do you do? This is boring.
Yeah. Well, my father-in-law, he's an interesting cat. He was in corrections for 32 years. He was warden of several prisons. So he loved it. He absolutely loved it. Matter of fact, he leaned down and started talking smack to the guy and tell him, "Hey, stop it! Like, this isn't helping." I'm like, no, it's like talking to kids. I'm like, go back to the car. So, but yeah, it's just, and from what I understand, it's just nonstop in town all the time now. But that's.
Not your problem anymore.
Correct. But bigger city, bigger problems. So everybody wants, Springfield to be bigger and bring all this stuff in. Well, bigger problems, or bigger city, bigger problems. So is what it is.
Man, I feel like that everyone should at one time. I feel like everyone at one time should work at a fast food restaurant or should work somewhere in the food industry.
So you have to deal with the public, right?
Yeah, so you have to deal with the public. You know what that's like, so you have some type of respect. And now I'm thinking everyone should probably do a ride along as well, so they know what the rest of the world is like, and it kind of gives you an idea of going, okay. It wasn't until, and I told you, I did the officers training, little mini academy back in Tulsa, and it wasn't until we did the night stops, just in a parking lot, about how dangerous they are, and I'm like,
can't see a thing.
I never even thought about how stressful it has to be for an officer to do a night stop, even if it's just someone who ran a stop sign or something, not just and it turns out to be something off the hook that goes off the chain,
an axe murder or something. I used to make that joke. I'd be like, hey. I don't know you, you don't know me. You could be one an axe murderer. Yeah. You just put your hands on the wheel for me. And I would always try to lighten it up with a little joke. And they just, they giggle.
We're in a parking lot.
Be like, hey, I get it. And put their hands up on the wheel while I talk to them. And then after, you feel company. We used to call it this, your spidey sense. You walk up to a car, stop a car, and you'd be like, this doesn't feel right. And most of the time you're right. Yeah. I can't tell you why, but something's off. And then you walk up to the car and they're either running their mouth or they're just digging under the seat and just be like,
see, and I was in the parking lot when we were doing the training and I knew, we had officers all around, and the people that were in the car that were, playing the other parts, I knew they were officers, and it was just like the whole thing was just frightening because you don't know what's going to happen when you walk up there. And that's what I say, you have to rely on your Peter tingle.
Okay.
That's what they call it in the last movie, was the Peter tingle.
Not sure we're going to be able to get that one by the censors.
I don't know what was going on in that parking lot, but okay.
I bet my kid's been into this thing on, I think it's on Amazon or something. It's called the body cam. And it's different body cam footage, and that's something, man. If you can't do a ride along, watch that. If for no other reason to see how quickly something that seems completely normal goes totally sideways.
It goes out.
Every single time somebody gets shot, it's some dude standing there talking to him, and everything's normal, and all of a sudden he's just like, boom, boom, boom. Oh, boom, boom, boom. Surprise! I had a gun. You should have checked.
Well,
it's like, wow.
My supervisor would show up, and they're like, "What happened?" I'd be like, I don't know. Like, we were just sitting here having a normal conversation, and then they went crazy. Yeah. I don't get it.
That's bizarre, man.
Oh, it's crazy stuff. I think the first one we watched was the second one. This officer gets called because this guy's acting goofy in his garage, and he goes to see him, and he runs up on this garage, and this guy's sitting on the floor, and he looks like he can't get up, and the officer's probably 3 feet from me. This guy pulls out a gun and starts shooting. Yeah. Shot this guy 4 times. He runs around him to get back out of the garage, and the guy's shooting him the whole time. And he's shooting at the guy. He gets shot 4 times. He goes outside to his squad car, gets his phone. He calls the 911 himself. He calls the chief of police himself. He calls him. He made like 3 phone calls with 4 bullets in him, walking around.
And that's training right there. That is
training and probably a good dose of adrenaline.
That too, yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what I would be thinking about, but it wouldn't be, I got to call somebody, tell him. And that's what he did. He calls me, I got shot 4 times.
Yeah. Dear Chief, I'll just put that one in an email later.
Oh, and by the way, I was shot 4 times.
Yeah. Maybe you come by the hospital and see me.
Yes.
How'd your shift go? Pretty good. Sean killed a guy and I got shot 4 times. Other than that, nothing really worth noting.
Another day at the office.
Yeah, it's just a Tuesday, sir.
Just send the pieces of lead to your supervisor in an envelope. Here, I picked these up today on my shift.
Yeah, exactly. So I just, we were talking about car stops in at night, and I was training a guy. He was right out of the military, and he is a great man. Matter of fact, the last I knew, he was in the narcotics division here. And we make a car stop at Battlefield, and the car the driver's just driving erratically. So I'm amazed he stops, for one. We pull into the Food for Less shopping center, the old Food for Less at Battlefield in Kansas. Mm-hmm. So now it's the Red Rack or whatever that is.
Yeah.
So we pull in there right next to the Hardee's, and he walks to the driver's side. I just walk up to the passenger side, and I look in, and it's just some guy that we deal with on a very regular basis. And his first name's John. I look in, I'm like, it's John. So, but you just got to let him do his thing, and work through it. And John he's just gorked, man. I mean, John did a lot of meth. John tried to run out of the courthouse one day after he was arrested and got tackled by 8 sheriff's deputies and stuff. John makes poor life decisions. And this is another example.
I feel like you're reading a story to us.
Yeah.
John makes poor life decisions.
This is John. John makes poor life decisions.
Like Jane and Dick.
See John run out of the courthouse.
Right. He did. It did not work well for him. But anyway, so we stop him. I look in there. I'm like, oh, it's John. Like, John's going to jail. John always goes to jail because he always has drugs or he's high. And I look at him, and his pupils are tiny, and he's like not listening to the officers trying to talk to him. I'm like, oh, John's high as hell. So the officer asks him for his driver's license and proof of insurance. Well, John starts digging around, opening the glove compartment, and he moves papers over. And it's just, of course, it's a drug dude's car, so there's just crap everywhere. And he moves stuff on the passenger side. And there's a knife on that passenger seat that's like this big, like Crocodile Dundee, like that's a knife. And I'm just like, ooh. So I take my gun out, the window's up, so I just tink right on the glass. I went, John, if you grab that knife, I'm going to fucking kill you right here. And of course, the officer on this side's like, what? He's brand new. He's like, what? So he starts telling him, turn the car off. Well, John knows the gig is up. So John goes to put the car in gear and grabs the blinker and tries to put it in gear. Well, the blinkers come on. I'm like, no. And then John grabs the other side and the windshield wipers come on. I'm like, no. And he just starts doing everything. And the officer's trying to reach in. And then I'm yelling at him, don't reach in the car, because I didn't want him to get hemmed up. Right. Because he's trying to take the keys out. So John finally takes it, finds the shifter, and takes off. And I just look over and went, well, I didn't see that coming. And so we get in the car, we go through the parking lot, and we go northbound on Fort, heading towards Sunshine. So the new guy's on the radio explaining to everything, and the supervisor comes on the radio, who's a friend of mine, and says, what's your charges? So I grab the radio and I'm like, it's John such and such. And he's like, continue your pursuit. That's all we had to say. And we go down Fort, we cross over Sunset, we go up that little hill, and John had a lead on us, and he comes down the hill. So we come up the hill, go down the hill, he's gone. John's gone. Like, there was an officer at Sunshine with spike strips, and we pass her, and she's like, and I'm like, dang it. So we'd start going down side streets. I mean, so we call it the ghetto cloak. Like, they turn on the ghetto cloak and they're gone. Yep. They turn out lights, go down, alleyways, gone. So a little while later, of course, we park. Now we have a ton of paperwork to do. So officer's sitting over there typing, and he's like, how do I fill out this? And I'm playing on my phone. I'm like, I don't know, dude. Just being really short with him. And he's like, oh, okay. Keeps going. He was like, and I could see him like trying to select the right box. He's like, I just don't. So what do I do about this? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, what's your problem? And I was like, I don't know, because I've never lost anyone in pursuit before, so I don't know how you fill that out. And he just kind of looks at me and goes, well, you don't have to be a dick about it. Like that. Just keeps on going. I was like, you lost John. John's a shoo-in. Like, we should have called him. I know, I suck. He's like, I'm going to go out of the car and punch myself and gets out. I mean, he was in his last phase of training. He was doing fine, but it was just a bad night. But he's just like, I didn't see the knife, man. I didn't see it. I didn't think he was going to run. I'm like, you couldn't figure that out yet? I mean, he was doing everything he could to not listen. Like, he never responded to him. And he was just like, didn't see it coming. I went, you'll develop the spidey sense, sir. You'll figure it out. And then months later, he came back. He's like, I get what you're talking about. I'm like, when shit's not right, you can just feel it. He's like, yep, absolutely. So, and a lot of people, I don't think have that, or they're just clueless.
Well, there's a weird thing psychologically that happens, and I can't remember what they call it, but basically people have an inclination to believe the best possible thing. Like if somebody hears a bang, their first instinct is that's a firework, not that's a firearm. So people are...
Happened to me in South Carolina. I got shot at with a shotgun.
Yeah.
From like 100 yards away, idiot, with birdshot. And he shoots. It was me and another guy, and we hear boom, and you hear it go shh. I was like, I wonder what that was. It was in the trees above us. He was shooting warning shots at us. That was weird. And then we keep going down this driveway, and another one, boom, shh. I was like, oh shit, that's birdshot. Then we go running into the wood line, but yeah, it just like, that was strange. Wonder what that was. Idiots.
Well, to your point, Doug, though, I mean, I guess it can be a terrible thing if you think the best of things, if you fill in the gaps with trust or you fill in the gaps with good beliefs. But I get it. You want that spidey sense, Peter Tingle. You want that feeling as well. But where do we draw the line? Where do we go?
Yeah,
we're
disinclined to believe it, and probably rightly so. We don't develop it. This is another thing, like we were talking about police having this sense, is developing that.
Right.
They are in a constant...
They're in it enough to know.
They are constantly in that petri dish, and they are learning that sense and what it sounds like, and learning to trust it. That's the hard part, because we all doubt ourselves anyway, like crazy. And when something horrible's happening, I mean, you take like the Las Vegas deal or any of those big deals.
Yeah.
You talk to eyewitnesses, like nobody, I thought it was fireworks. I thought it was this. I thought it was that. Like, people are screaming and people are laying on the ground dead in front of you, and it's like, those are odd fireworks.
A lot of people can't process it. They can't understand that. They just can't. They don't. There was a perfect example, especially when things like that are happening, or you're in a traumatic event. There was a lady that her husband had killed herself on the south side of town. She went to bed. He walks into the garage, shoots himself under the chin with .357. One half of his brain was laying next to him in the garage. She comes out in the morning. There he is dead. She calls 911 and says, my husband fell down the steps. He needs an ambulance. And then she says, there's a lot of blood. Well, I just happen to be around the corner. And it's a very affluent neighborhood on the south side of town. And I show up there. I tell her, I was like, open the garage door. I tell dispatch that. The garage door's open. I come up and I'm just like, oh.
Do you have any aspirin?
The ambulance.
Somebody get him an aspirin.
And she's like, sir, help him. I'm like, ma'am, I can't do anything for him. He's gone. Like, he was cold. He had been in there all night. But she was so traumatized by her husband laying there. The gun was in his hand. She never saw the gun. She never saw his brain sitting there perfectly intact, right next to him. She never saw it. She just saw blood and him and panicked. And just like, oh, he needs help. The logical thing was he fell down because there's steps right there.
Right.
Logical thing was maybe they got hit by fireworks, or they fell.
Yeah.
People don't want to believe that. Where there's a lot of people that have either been in the military or law enforcement or EMS or fire. First thing they think of is like, well, that dude shot. That's bad. So, it's like his brain's next to him. Like, we can't recover from that.
It's almost like desensitizing of that, though, right?
What's that?
It's almost like a desensitizing of that.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm watching this show. I don't know if you guys remember back in 2017, 2018, all this stuff broke out about the Nexium Corporation with this guy whose name was Keith Raniere.
Yeah. I remember it, yes.
So I'm watching this HBO 9-part series called The Vow. And the first episode, it's a multi-level marketing, basically self-help marketing coaching
pyramid slavery.
Pyramid, yeah. except it wasn't slavery at the point, because the first episode you're watching it and you're like, yeah, that's good. I think I would join that episode. Mm-hmm. And then the second episode, you're like, no, I'm not into sex.
Something's going wrong.
Yeah, not into that. No.
So you want to brand me?
Yes.
And you're not talking about like a corporate logo. You're talking about like a brand.
Right.
Legit. It'll be fine.
With like not even like a brand. We're talking like a soldering iron.
Electric pottery.
We're drawing it on you. Not like just a quick, we pulled this out of the fire and there you're done.
If you had the I got my Donald Trump hand up. If you had the good if you had the good luck, if you had the good wherewithal to hear today's episode of the Gentlementors, we discussed electric cautery because I told you about when I had the skin tags taken off.
Yes.
And it's exactly the same thing. It's a disposable electric cautery pin. It's basically a one-use soldering iron. Yeah, and that's what they did.
And that's what the one of the ladies, Sarah, she's an actress on
Smallville.
Yeah. Oh, that's something else I discovered when I saw all the people who from Hollywood who are involved in this. I'm like, so if you were on a series that was aired on the CW, you have more likely of a chance to be involved in a cult. I'm just saying, if a lot of people from the CW that's wrong. Anyway, she was talking about how she had to like remove, and that was exactly what you were talking about, Doug, because I thought about that when you actually had to remove yourself and think of yourself from their position. She was talking about removing herself from the experience of having that done.
Disassociation.
Right, disassociation with that. Because his whole thing was, there are no victims. There is no such thing as a victim. You are your own cause, but yet now he's in jail and he's a victim of the judicial system. But yet everybody's like, hey, you should get him out because he didn't do anything wrong. And now all of a sudden they're crying because he's a victim. But yet there are no victims.
Yeah, he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't.
him and Jeff Epstein were hanging out doing nothing together.
Absolutely. Sure, for sure.
You realize that's what NXIVM is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it didn't take much to figure out, I see what they're doing here. Yeah.
NXIVM is just another version of the Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
Have you watched that series?
Which one?
The Epstein one? I think it's on Netflix.
Yes, I have.
Yes.
I haven't watched that one yet. That'll be next.
You'll become extremely frustrated in like the first 10 minutes. Like, really? It just,
Epstein, NXIVM, Hugh Hefner. Laugh if you will.
Wow.
These are CIA honeypot operations. They draw people in, put them in risque situations, videotape and photograph them, then hold that over their head and blackmail them with it. Everything you see in the media, every famous person, every person who's got any kind of success that's a cultural icon have been through this. It's the only reason they are allowed to be famous is because they can be manipulated and used as pawns. And that's what NXIVM was doing. They were ingesting people, just like Epstein was ingesting people, just like Hugh Hefner did for years, and nobody caught on. I
always read the articles.
Why is the Playboy Mansion empty?
Right now?
Right now.
Right now. Bought it.
Yeah, because
somebody just bought it
because they're not using it anymore. Have you guys caught any of the wind on this guy who's written this new Manson book?
No.
This guy's done 20 years of research into Manson. He was sent to do it as a magazine article, and he was one of these guys who's going to go disprove the Manson thing, and he's tired of hearing the mythology of Helter Skelter. Yep. Well, he went in and found the same thing. CIA running honeypot scams, bringing hippies in San Francisco, and they do mind control stuff, this MK Ultra, and they mind control people, and they use it to manipulate.
So is that what was happening in the NXIVM? You think they were using the mind control?
I believe so. Yeah.
Wow.
That's all that stuff is breaking you down.
Right.
It's
that's what they talked about.
Here's what's so scary about it is like people don't know that when you're taken in to be interrogated, how they break you down. They isolate you. They break down norms. They deprive you of sleep. They deprive you of all the things that equal normal.
Food, because he had these women on like a 300 calorie a day diet.
Control.
So breaking them down.
Break you down.
Yes.
Then I can start to tell you how to think and the ways you should think and why you're thinking about everything wrong.
There was a couple of things in the series, like in one of the episodes, there was a couple of mentions of the ladies, because it was all ladies doing the recruiting for the other ladies. And so
who recruited for Epstein?
Ladies.
She's in jail. She didn't get a late night visitor in her cell.
Here's what's interesting, and here's the thing, because they glossed over this really quickly, because they mentioned it twice, and then it's like, wait a minute, we're not going to go back to this. They talked about the people just all of a sudden they were talking and they would just go into this trance-like state. And she said, and they even asked that one time, did so-and-so go into a trance-like state? And they were like, yeah, they did. And they glossed over the entire documentary, just kind of glossed over that, like that's a normal thing. Oh yeah. And then when she went into a trance-like state, when she was asking me if I wanted to be a sex slave. And then we're not going to go back to that and go, wait a minute, why was she? Why was that a normal thing? Did that happen? And it happened more than once. How many other people did it happen to? Why did it happen? Did we ever research this? No, I'm 2 episodes from the end, 2 or 3 episodes from the end. It's like we've never revisited that. But hold on a minute.
Just for 30 seconds, take a deep breath and consider that Epstein thing.
Mm-hmm. No,
how did that happen?
How
was that
mind control?
How was that allowed to happen and no one's asking questions about it?
Right.
Here's the most wanted man in America gets put in this prison cell where there's cameras and guards, and he's just coming off a suicide watch, and there's questions about whether that should have happened. And he turns up dead, and guys are asleep, and the cameras aren't working, and isn't that just a funny bunch of coincidences?
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Come on.
This guy Ranieri is he just started his sentence, I think, in January, this past January. So he's got 99 years to go. So
one day.
Actually, we're only 3 months into it, so he's
that's
a quarter of a year down.
That is one lonely tick mark on that prison wall. And
I would be interested. I'd be interested to watch him in the prison, though. Is he mind controlling these men in the prison? Are they all becoming his bitches?
Ranieri has always been a swindler. He's always been a con man.
You know,
that's what he started out doing with like his home furniture companies and stuff.
Do you know where he is?
No, I don't. I had to look it up. I don't know where he's at.
Okay,
I think
he may not have access to other people depending on where he is. So
okay.
When I told you earlier that I worked for the feds, I worked for the Federal Bureau of Prisons for 3 years.
Yeah.
So in Terre Haute. So, and there's, where Epstein was killed was a federal detention facility in New York. So it just doesn't make sense to me. Like,
and it would be okay if it didn't make sense and people were going, we've got to figure out what went wrong here. But it doesn't make sense, and nobody's even looking at it.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah. Who cares? It's like, he's dead.
The Weinstein brothers did a thing on it, and they described it as, they said, it's almost as if we as a nation tripped over an invisible thing. You know how you do that thing where you'll trip and you kind of do that fake look back to look and see if there's something that tripped you up?
Yep.
It's like, but nobody's looking back.
Yeah.
We all saw this thing happen, and everybody went, what?
Yeah.
He's in Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson, okay. Yeah, then he has
federal pen.
In a federal facility. Then he has access. Depending, I mean, he could be in the shoe, which is like the hole. But odds are, they wouldn't send him there to be just live in the shoe. They would, if he was no contact, they would have sent him to Illinois or the ADX in California or Colorado. But he's not violent, so he probably wouldn't have gone to the ADX. He would have went to Illinois. So there's always so many places you can go that are no contact, or what they call step-down units, where you're pretty much in your cell for 22 hours a day, and then they'll let you out to shower and do this and that and in the common area, but then you're back in your cell. And as long as you play nice, you can stay in those the step-down units, and then you'll go to a regular housing unit where 7:00 in the morning, they open the doors, and then you're not locked in until 9 at night. So there's obviously controlled movement. You can only go certain places at certain times. But you have access to everyone else in the facility, basically, especially if you go in the rec yard. So
I watched some of the video. This thing is well documented because one of the first guys that he recruited was a documentary filmmaker. Surprisingly enough. So a lot of this footage and stuff is, I mean, it's like, wow, there's so much footage and so many recorded conversations. And it's like you sit there and you go, oh, he's trying to be like Jesus. You know, he's got the long hair and the beard, and he's like everybody's sitting on the floor, and he's sitting in a chair at the volleyball court, and everybody's sitting on the floor asking questions, and he's like, well, you know, it's just like, are you kidding me? And people are just they're just eating it up.
And then yeah.
And the women they interviewed, it's like, oh, I didn't find him attractive at all. He wasn't attractive at all, but
why? Then?
Something about him drew him in, and I think it goes back to that. It's that mind control thing.
Here's another thing. Let me throw this at you too.
Okay, go for it.
I've studied a lot of these guys. Jim Jones, David Koresh, and this guy. You listen to the people that follow him, they all say one thing in common. And this is the thing that I can't quite get my head around. He made me feel like I was the only person in the room.
Yes,
I have heard that.
There's some kind of personal connection that they're making, man, and people buy it. I mean, the right people, but they find them.
Right. And I think that's the thing. I don't know that you could do that to 100% of the population. I'm pretty sure.
No. I mean, there are people that are going to be marks and people that aren't. That goes with any con man or salesman or anything, and that's what these guys are. When you break it down to the nuclear part, I mean, you're dealing with a con. You're dealing with a sales guy. He's making a pitch. He's grifting. And dudes like Sean here, his spidey sense is going to go off and go, anything that sounds too good to be true. Yeah, I'm going to go with that one.
No, I'm not doing that.
And then there's
you need collateral for this. I'm gonna hold on. Let me get back to you on that one. Okay.
You want to do what with that soldering iron? No.
Yeah.
No. Sorry. This is where I draw the line, sir.
You want me to take off my clothes and blindfold me? What am I doing here exactly? Hold on. Let's back up.
Thank you, sir. May I have a what? No, I'm not saying that. This is wrong.
So yeah, I mean, Oh man, I could do. I'm gonna go bad here. I can edit this if I need to. Walk into any church. You will see the same dynamic.
Yep. That's funny. That's some of the conversation that Deborah and I had too. And it was like, and even now she's been watching other pastors on social media and stuff like that. And she's like, and then I see them do the same things that this guy was doing. And it's like,
same shtick.
Oh, it's almost frightening. But then some of the stuff that I'm doing, Doug, I look back at it and I go, oh man,
what are you doing?
What am I doing? Why am I
making stuff out of wood?
No. I'm doing these business. And here's the thing: when I do this business stuff, that I'm helping coach people with some of the business stuff, and the business things that I take are called modules, and the things that Keith Raniere wrote were called modules.
Oh no!
And I'm just like,
you're the next Keith Raniere.
Man,
that's what this weekend getaway's about, isn't it? You want to brand my groin. You're trying to get me away to talk me into it.
All I need is a bottle of scotch and a cigar and a soldering iron. And
you probably get by with the scotch.
Probably get.
Come on, man! I promise it won't hurt. It's not gonna hurt. Here, take these Tylenols.
No, that's an MW. Those are my initials. That's what's funny too, is to see those people light up when they realize,
you're gonna take it all.
That's not a mountain and a river. That's the guy's dadgum initials.
It's not just physical branding; it's corporate branding.
Yes, literally. Yeah.
It would look kind of like the Mountain Dew logo with the M and the W.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Little squiggly line.
Is that what you do with all your clients? Do you brand your clients and have meetings with them?
Yep.
Yeah,
we're going to finish
little
this
do
up.
they know what it says on the website, that he specializes in corporate branding, that's what he's got in mind.
Shows up with an actual brand.
Yeah. Got the fire going right now.
Who's ready? Who's first?
Go for just a minute.
Wait a minute. I thought I was into personal branding, not corporate branding. We can do that too. Your choice. Oh man, it's wrong on so many levels. It's frightening.
It is.
You're right.
What's
You're right.
wrong with you?
Walking into churches, you're going, holy cow, we're, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But.
Well, you remember
I am very sensitive.
the other day about a certain church. Were you there when I said that?
I don't think so. Refresh my memory.
we got talking about cults or something like that, and I made mention to a certain church in Ozark that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I thought Debbie was going to mind.
Oh, my goodness. I bet so.
Other half of the people in the room went, "Yep," like that, and I was like, anyway, I was like, just a joke, but kind of real.
Yeah, she's probably not. Yeah, she didn't take that too well.
No, she glared over the computer screen at me. I was like, I just went.
Yep. I'm gonna go back to my computer for a little.
My desk. Yep.
Those are the best moments in life.
Yeah. I was like, just a joke.
Yeah, we were down the last time we were down, and Gail was over having dinner that night, and Deborah was poking her to bug me about the vaccine. And she's like, so what do you think about the vaccine? So I laid all my heavy conspiracy stuff on her, and she looks over. She goes to Deborah. She goes, "He's kidding, right?"
Because you said she had already had her first dose.
I know.
And Deborah didn't bother to tell you that.
I knew.
And then you were like, "No, I don't want to be tracked by the government."
Yeah.
Computer.
I got to go all in. You got to go all in. You can't stop halfway. You got to go all in.
She's like, "What?"
Oh, you've already had it?
Oh.
You'll probably be fine though. You'll probably
air hug.
It's awesome.
You come back in the room with foil all wrapped around you and everything. All right, I'm back.
Here's what I learned from ministry: is the most enjoyable part of life is making other people squirm.
Right. All right.
That's true. And then the people who don't squirm as much, you invite them into your circle.
They get to be on the podcast.
Yeah, they get to be.
That's the interview for the podcast. If you don't run away, you're invited.
If you don't squirm
also
away.
Humor?
Oh, man. That's crazy.
That's what I was going to say before when you were talking about the woman in the garage with the husband with the brain on the floor. I'm like, Can you help him? Like, rise up and walk. I don't know. That's all I got. What do you do? Put your brain back into your head and get up off that floor.
Son, have you lost your mind?
It's like the scarecrow. All he needed was a brain. Hold on.
Oh, that's terrible. We're laughing at somebody's tragedy. That's awful.
That is horrible.
Terrible.
Poor guy.
We were joking about being branded, and these people would be horrified.
But yes, I did watch that.
You watched that series, The Vow?
Yeah, well, I've been following Keith for a while because, he's tied in with the
Really? How so?
Because all this, you know what I...
Did he ask you to be a part of his DOS?
He did. He was trying to brand me. No, well, they tie into the circles, tie in the same. Him and Epstein and Maxwell, they all the Bronfman sisters that own Seagram's.
Yep.
That's the common link.
Oh, were they involved in Epstein?
They're the bank. No, they're friends with Ghislaine.
Oh, so they were.
Yeah. They're not friends with him anymore. He's not taking meetings.
I don't imagine.
He's booked.
Interesting. Wow. So why can't we get a documentary that's I don't have to spend so much time watching so many documentaries. It could just be a full-threaded documentary of everything that
that's what I'm working on. That's what I'm working on.
Of the grid.
Yeah. The history of the world, part one.
That's my new social media project that I'm working on. I'm tying all the conspiracy theories and all of everything together. It's all one giant web. I just wanted to use a Spider-Man analogy since we were doing the Spider-Man.
I like it since we're doing Spidey stuff.
Yeah.
Since we're doing Spidey stuff. Yeah,
I like how
it's Peter Tingle. Peter Tingle.
Yeah, well
done. I can't do that. I can't do Peter Tingle.
You can't do Peter Tingle? Wow. That's...
Oh, no. I can't do that.
Well, that's a first.
I can laugh when
That's where you're going to draw the line, Doug? You're going to draw the line at using the term Peter Tingle? What happened to the whole thing about making people squirm?
I got to have a line. Everybody needs a line somewhere.
I'm going to walk in tomorrow morning in the office and go, Peter Tingle. I got a Peter Tingle.
Would you be happier if the line that I drew made sense?
No.
That would be uncharacteristic. I need to draw a line somewhere where no one else would. I'm offended by paper. There you go. There's my line. I'm going to put it where no one else would, on the paper.
I like it. All right, so back to Sean here.
Hi.
I'm waiting for somebody to step in and stop me.
That's it.
I can't do it myself.
I don't have the wherewithal. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
So now what?
What got you out of law enforcement?
So the strain on the family, and like I said, not good on the soul. So I had thought about making a move for a while, and then finally just did it. And I miss it. I miss the action. I miss the people I work with, but I don't miss the drama one bit. So it's always cool being in the know, like knowing what's going on. But once you get over that, So every once in a while I see it's pouring rain outside, and I'll send a picture to my friends that I know are out working accidents in the rain and go, boy, it's hot in my office today. Looks crappy out there. And I get a sort of responses back, none of which I should probably report or, say, but it's been good. I like it. So I don't get called in the middle of the night. I don't have to leave. I don't have to stay late all the time. So it's healthier.
So more of a cumulative thing than an event. Something that sent you out, just the weight of it over you.
Yeah. Okay. And I still I had a lot of stuff that I'd go to a counselor and talk about. So, I have PTSD about some stuff. So, but not severe, very mild form of it. I mean, if you could have a mild case of, or a touch of the PTSD. It's just, that's what I always say. I was like, but just some things will never go away.
Seasonal PTSD.
Right. Yeah.
I do get it around Christmas though.
Which I've learned, like I would drive past certain intersections or certain places and you instantly remember things that have happened there. If I drive down Campbell, there's 3 spots on Campbell going from Republic Road to downtown that I remember events that happened. Not that they were traumatic to really me per se, but you saw some things or had to do some things that you weren't expecting to do that day. And that stuff just doesn't go away. One of them was the girl that got decapitated in the car. Everyone in that car was killed. Everybody. I mean, you drive an 80-something Camaro into a tree that's huge, sideways at 100 miles an hour, bad for your health. So there's lots of engagement. The car folded around the tree. I showed up there. I was like, they're dead. They're dead. They have no head. So again, you can cancel the ambulance. So that stuff will never go away. So
right.
But anyway, to answer your question, it's hard on the soul, and people that can do that for 20, 30 years, man, my hat's off to them. But the ones that I know that have done it don't miss it a bit when they go. Like they don't stay another day. They're just in it till they're done, and that's it. So, I mean, you just become so desensitized. I mean, it's just a job. So.
The Gentlementor.